So how hard is it to find what we're looking for on the internet? We go to Google, we type in a few keywords, we get like hundreds of results. We end up with like 10 tabs open. We go and we look at those tabs. We're like scanning, is this relevant to me? And then, sometimes we're lucky and we find what we want, and sometimes we don't, and we're just frustrated, and we end up back on Google typing in a different keyword and repeating the process. So there's just like so many sites. There's 56.5 billion web pages out there, and trying to find what you want can just be super challenging. And in the case of Remodista, how many of you have actually found Remodista or Halo through Google? I would guess it's like nobody. I think it's mostly referral and word of mouth. So as we grow the membership, we want to look at new opportunities and new ways that we can grow it for people that actually don't know about the Halo community. So when we look at that, like what does that look like for a user at Google? How does a women business leader searching for purpose, fashion, research, and insights actually find our community? Or how does an eco-conscious consumer find sustainable brands to support? So this is what we're looking to solve with SEO. The way that we need to do that is increase the visibility of the site, the app, and the community to innovative women leaders of purpose-first businesses. So there's two different ways you can do this: through earned media, which is actually through our awesome quality content, and we earn that placement up in the Google search engine, or through paid search marketing, where you're actually paying for it. So the reason that SEO really matters to the community and the business is because when you have a content strategy that then ties to the keyword strategy of how your users are actually finding you, it builds reputation and authority with the audience. And then the quality of the visitors that are actually coming to your site, they're more engaged because it's more what they're looking for, and they're more likely to land on a page that's what they want. And so ultimately that increases their satisfaction of the whole experience. They find what they're looking for quicker. And then as far as the ROI, there's a longer lead time with SEO, but it's typically, you'll have a stronger ROI than paid in the long run. And is Sara, is she here? Yep. Okay.
Thank you, Shannon. And,
yes.
And thanks, Monica and Kelly, for letting me be part of the community. And it's been really awesome working with you guys and talking about SEO. In regards to just different elements with SEO, there are a lot of different factors that go into Google, Bing, all of the different search engines ranking your website. So even though we can't go through all of them, just talking through these main points, starting with content. Quality content goes a long way, and obviously Remodista and Halo both have a ton of that from community members and Kelly herself. So I think for that, it's definitely really important for us to make sure that the content is as high quality as possible and that it's things that are shareable, and also just keeping it fresh. Another thing too is just utilizing keywords that users are searching for. I often ask myself when I'm writing SEO copy, what would I search for to get to this page? Another thing too is just curated content, which kind of goes in line with the quality, as well as video and images. So making sure that all of your elements that are content, including video and images, are optimized as well. Video, YouTube is the #2 search engine. So making sure that your videos have closed captioning, all of that helps you rank organically in a variety of different ways. And images, making sure that your image is named roses.jpg versus 123.jpg, and that you have alt text. So there's a lot of technical elements, which brings us to our next point, is architecture and site architecture. So making sure that your site is search engine friendly is extremely important in making sure that Google and search engines can find your site. So, that includes some of what we're talking about later on with HTML, but the site speed makes a big difference. Keeping up with Google's changes in 2019, Google ran 464,065 experiments, resulting in 3,620 improvements to search. So there's a lot of testing going on, and just keeping ahead of that mix is really important to make sure that your site's ranking accordingly. Making sure that your site is mobile optimized is extremely important. Your URL structure is extremely important, and security. So having HTTPS, encoding, making sure that your users feel safe going through your website. And then there's a lot of markups, like when you see movie listings right in your search engine results page, that's done through a markup called schema. So there's a lot of technical things in the back end that can really help bring your page to life and tell the search engines as much as they need to know about the site, since they can't themselves read it. So you have to give more information, the better. Another thing too is site authority. So your brand authority matters, social reputation, having different social elements, how many followers you have. You'll notice search results even populate in Google sometimes, like Twitter posts, a lot of TikTok. And Pinterest shows up right in there. So just making sure that a lot of your social elements are also really relevant, showing your brand authority, and really being seen as a leader in your field. And lastly, just kind of in line with content, is HTML copy. And this also goes in line with architecture. So a lot of what we've been working on together has been optimizing or just best practices for a lot of the content and pages. So optimizing page titles with keywords, meta tags in the back end. So the words that you see when you do a Google search for organic, and helping control that message to our users and people interested in finding out more.
Exciting.
Sara, do you want to go ahead and go through the resources, and then we'll do the poll question at the end?
Yeah, for sure. So here's just a few different things, and I can go ahead and paste them in the chat too, just so you don't have to write down these very long URLs. Yep. But there's a lot of really excellent starter guides. Like the Google Starter Guide gives a lot of detail about getting started with SEO and what the best practices are for your site. Search Engine Land, if you sign up for their newsletter, has really great SEO information, as well as SEO Moz. Both have really fantastic beginner guides. And just some SEO tools. If you already have Google AdWords, you can also get the Google Keyword Planner, and that gives you some of the search volume, like the one I showed to the right, just as an example of just some of the things you might be searching for women in business and sustainability, things like that. And then Google Trends is always really is free. You can go to it right now, and really shows what users are searching for right now in addition to trends. So I think all of those sites are really, really helpful in doing keyword research.
Thank you. And we have a poll question. So I think, why don't you want to go over the poll question and then unshare, and I'll launch it?
Sure, yeah. So we wanted to ask you all, if you didn't know Halo or Remodista, which I know is kind of a weird question, but just, yeah, so if you are in Google search, so we didn't want things like women to watch or like things that you already know about Remodista, because most of us have found that through word of mouth. But let's say you are, a business owner of a sustainable business, and you're interested in finding a community that can help you with research or insights. How would you find, now that you do have that intent that you know it, but ultimately we want to reach people and have a higher visibility with people that don't know about Halo or Remodista.
That's leading the witness. If I'm specifically looking for sustainable products, I'm going to type that in. If I'm looking for mentorship and leadership, I'm going to type that in. So the question is, to each one of us, what does it mean to us? And what are we going to first be typing in to find an organization like Remodista or Halo in order to solve something that we have a need for?
Exactly. Well said, well put.
Said like an SEO expert.
Because what we're interested in is the keywords that
Right.
you guys could use, because then that will help us with the content strategy on the site and making sure we have the right quality content to match up to those keywords.
And this makes sense because really the research is a little understated at this point. And in the management consulting we do is behind the scenes, really. It isn't upfront as it will be now that the community is built. We can move back into doing a lot more of that when it comes to community consulting, virtual commerce, purpose marketing strategies, and overall growth. So
yeah, because we're pivoting. You know, we're now at that space, and it was really the women leadership and mentorship that you were able to take that purpose and build from there so that you could pivot. And so it is a critical time, hence why you hear us talking a lot about this is a year of growth for us and, you know, trying all kinds of new things. So, which is why SEO is so important to us now. And thank you, Sarah and Shannon.
No, it makes a lot of sense. I mean, I'm just thinking like these are things that people would look for. And if Halo came up, because I'm in the trenches too of the whole SEO and the keywords. So, you know, those are, where did it go?
oh, I was going to share the result.
I think it ended.
Oh, I was just looking at I didn't. But that's interesting because I would look up, you know, sustainable business communities. I don't know if I'd say communities though. So I'm really thinking, I have to think about it a little bit more.
Yeah, and I mean, ultimately, like what this does is just starts to kind of lead down multiple keywords of things. Like there's not very much here, you know, but like once you start saying, oh, wait, communities, you might look at other words like groups and, you know, all those tools that Sarah brought up to expand the whole keyword list. But what's interesting to know is kind of what would be the first, second line option of how people think that they would find us. So this is really interesting, actually.